Hey, good morning to those of you out on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. Excited to get started here on today's training for top 3 strengths federal buyers look for in small business government contractors. So that's what we're going to talk about today. One of the things I'm thinking I'm going to try going forward, and we'll see how many I do this on, but I want to give a quick tip in the beginning. I always try to do something in the beginning that might be helpful to those of you showing up early or right on time so that we can maximize the time, but also giving LinkedIn and YouTube, these platforms, a chance to push out that we're live. And so I'm going to start trying to give a tip. Somebody asked or thanked me yesterday for keep giving these different types of tips on how to do basically our job, right? There's these little secrets, if you will, I've learned over the years, and they're just tips. And so I want to keep sharing them. But today, and so they're going to be random, whatever pops into my mind related. But one thing that I noticed that I wanted to share is there's a book out here called Strategic Secrets or Secrets of Strategic Pricing for Government Contractors. And this book is awesome, right? Marcia Lindquist wrote it. And Josh Frank, if you saw before I had talked about, as I lean all around my office here, Josh wrote this book. And if I like him enough to reference his books, then I like him enough that he's, doing the foreword on this particular book. But it's one that you might consider doing because I haven't found many real books on pricing out there. And Marcia did a great job diving in. And a particular chapter she's got as an example is strategic pricing, indirect rates, and wrap rates. And the reason I'm bringing that up today is because I get asked these kind of questions a lot about, the rates, the indirect rates, and how do I do my wrap rates, et cetera. And I'm not a pricing expert, right? I'm a small business owner who's done it before, blah, blah, blah. Marcia's an expert, and she's dumped her years of knowledge into this book. And so I highly encourage you to take a look at it. And one of the reasons I thought about this book yesterday is because actually, John, if you're on today, has just started up a new YouTube channel, and he's doing pricing. His company's, he's in here pretty often, and he does pricing. And so he started up a new channel where I think he's sharing information about pricing as well. So if you're looking at proposals and you're wondering about that, that'd be great to be able to follow his channel or look at strategic pricing. And Gus or John, do me a favor, drop the URL to the YouTube channel so people can kind of check it out. John's channel, not mine. Okay, let's get started here. All right. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. And I want to welcome you again to my LinkedIn Live sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market, just like you as a small business owner or supporting a small business. And I've been teaching people like you since 2018 that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow the process A to Z, we're going to have predictable, repeatable results. And that's what you want. That's what I want. And that's why I do this training. Before we get too much farther on the training, help buyers remember who you are. Put your core competency and your company name into the chat. Just use 2 or 3 words to describe your core competency so that buyers who come in will know it. Also, I will begin to remember who you are and what you do and the other people within the community. And I'll tell you how important this is. Just yesterday, I was able to make 2 referrals that I'm thinking are going to lead to dollars for the company I made the referrals to. And these are based off of basically company A looking for this type of product. And I knew this person did it. And I said, oh, hey, let me make the introduction, right? It has nothing to do with whether people are my customer or not. If I know what you do and there's a chance for me to put you together, I'm going to do it. And I hope each of you will do that same thing, right? Build your network within this community. And one of the ways you do it is by letting us know what you do. Another way that's, kind is to make introductions whenever you can without any kind of expectation. So engage in the community, make sure we know who you are and put your stuff in there, your contact or your company name. All right. And the last thing is I want to say thank you to the GovCon Chamber's sustaining members. Without you, we wouldn't be able to put out all the great content we do and come back day after day doing these lives. So thank you very much for being a sustaining member. Okay, let's get rolling into today's topic, right? Top 3 things federal buyers look for from small businesses and small business government contractors, right? And I could have said anything, top 3 traits, top 3 questions, but really what I was trying to address is that sometimes as a small business government contractor, you might feel like the federal buyers don't seem interested in talking to you, or they don't seem interested in working with your company. And often we're taking it personal, right? We're thinking it's about me, but it's not personal. it's just business. These buyers have a responsibility to the taxpayers to protect the dollars and to the internal users within the agencies to make the best decision in order to support their mission, right? You want to show them, if you want to be able to be a company that's getting invited to the table, if you will, right? You want to show them how they can use you. You want to show them that they can reach you. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. And you want to show them that they can trust you. And so that's exactly what I'm going to talk about in today's training. I'm going to cover these 3 questions that buyers are asking when you contact them. The first thing they're asking, one of the first things they're asking is, can I use you? If you're reaching out to me, is there a fit between your products and your services and our agency mission, what we're trying to accomplish? The second question they're asking, can I reach you, right? Are you a prime or a subcontractor on a contract vehicle that I can use to reach you? And then the third question is, can they trust you? And in this case, we're talking about, do you have the past performance to match their requirements? It's pretty straightforward, right? When you think of these 3 questions, that's how we are being evaluated as businesses when we knock on the door of a government buyer. So if you want to hear this training, if you're looking forward to hearing what I got to share today, and you understand that it's not personal when they're asking you questions or maybe not getting back to you, but it's just business, put in the chat, it's just business. Let me know that you understand that it's just business, it's not personal. We can't really solve personal problems, but when it's just business, it really is about process. And are we doing what our buyers need in order for them to make a decision to talk with us more and or buy from us? Okay, if you haven't been here before, I tend to move at a pretty fire hose pace. As I go along, if I ask you to put stuff in chat, please do that. It lets me know you're engaged with what I'm sharing and that it's ringing true. And then also feel free occasionally, if you're running into some of the similar experience, there's people in here who are experiencing this world. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But I'm going to start with the first one, right? Can they use you? This is a big deal. When I look to an agency and I'm talking to customers about understanding our buyer, and I wanted to use 2 examples, elevators and artificial intelligence, because I'm working with somebody who's doing elevators, and I was talking with somebody this morning about AI. So I figure I'll use those 2 topics. Not that I don't prepare way in advance. So elevators, right? If I look at an agency, not everybody can use what I sell if I'm selling elevators, elevator maintenance services, things like that. Most military installations probably won't, because they have 1 or 2 floors on a building. So I might need to go to GSA as an example, who manages multi-floor buildings. That's who I want to get to and talk to. And so as I look to who can use me, in this case with elevators, not everybody can use me, and I need to go over to the ones who can. If I'm trying to talk to military installations who don't have multi-floors or a need for an elevator, then why would they even respond back to me? Why would they talk to me? So they can't use me. There's no fit between what they need, right? In this case, elevators are a little less about the mission and more about helping them on the garrison. Flip that over to artificial intelligence, right? In this case, artificial intelligence will be used by every single agency in almost every single office, including the people who manage elevators, right? Is there a way to look at the data that's in elevators and be able to predict when maintenance should be done so that we don't have to spend as much money replacing elevators and we can spend a fraction of that just constantly maintaining them? If I can understand the data and the AI and machine learning can give me some information, then I can understand it. And I'm stretching that example pretty brutally there, but this idea that artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, is pretty much going to be used everywhere. So I might argue that, oh, of course, everybody could use me. But now I need to dig further in, right? How can they use me? I need to be able to help my customer understand and answer, how can I use this company? So if I'm doing artificial intelligence, I was using this example this morning, and I was talking with somebody about artificial intelligence, and for them, it was in let's say the risk management side of the house. And I was explaining to them that I was talking to another company that did artificial intelligence, computer, emerging technologies, things like that. But this other company, what they supported mostly was human movement or something. And I'm really going to get a little stretched on this example. But basically what they could do is use machine learning and artificial intelligence to help improve the training of repetitive actions. For example, pulling a gun from my holster and shooting it, right? That's a law enforcement type activity that may be Custom and Border Protection, the military police, all these different law enforcement entities throughout the federal government. that might be perfect. As they do continued training, I can use the artificial intelligence. And so when I come back and say, can I use you? Because that example is specific to, body motion and body movement, human motion, right? Because of what I'm doing, then maybe I would not have a connection with the HR department, where the HR department is looking for somebody to help them with just managing all the HR data on, people's activities. Do they show up to work on time? Logistics, things like that, right? So understanding that pack. This person I was talking to this morning, it was about risk management and managing fraud, let's say. Well, it's like, okay, then you need to find the offices that deal with that particular area that you use. And if you start reaching out to more of the people who actually would use what you're selling, then you would start finding more of a match. And I think sometimes what we end up doing is scattershotting our approach because we don't actually know who to talk to. And my recommendation is pause for a second. Figure out who really would use what we sell. Another customer we have is one of their core competencies is big data. And so if they're doing artificial intelligence, right, AI and ML around big data, then they might try to talk to the chief data officers throughout the agencies. There's many of these chief data officers. They're trying to figure out how do they deal with all this data. Well, these AI companies might be the perfect ones to talk to them. And so how do you begin to know whether there's a fit between what you sell and the mission, right? It's one thing for me to be guessing it from my experience. Well, the first step in the 7-step process that we teach constantly, and let me see if I got it showing here really quick for those of you who maybe haven't seen it before, but 7-step process to success, right? In the federal revenue world or in the federal market, it begins with research, seeking first to understand your buyer. And when you do that, that means looking at their strategic documents, looking at OIG reports, the Office of Inspector General, these annual reports that look back and say, what did we do well? What did we do poorly? Looking forward, saying, what do we need to do? By understanding that, you begin to understand what your buyers need. One of the things to keep in mind is you can keep coming down lower. An example is I'm saying, is there a fit between what you sell and an agency's mission? Well, if you look at the Army, their mission basically is to fight our country's wars, right? To protect us, but really to fight our country's wars. But if you come down lower and you look at MIC, I think it's Military Installation Contracting Command. So it's underneath the Army, but it's the contracting command. Their mission is not to fight wars. Their mission is basically to acquire the products and services necessary for the Army to fight the war, right? So in order for the Army to accomplish its big mission, MIC needs to be able to accomplish its mission, which is improved acquisition approach, like moving acquisitions through better, avoiding cost overruns or fraud. They have a different type of mission. They're not out there actually downrange firing bullets. And so you need to understand, as you look at a department or an agency, you want to come down to the office you're in and go, well, are there documents out there that I can understand your mission better? If you can't actually find research, then this is part of what your sales call is like. When you're doing business development, you're getting in there to an agency or a command or an office and saying, how can I understand more about what you do? You don't want to come in and say, hey, this is what we do. You want to be able to talk to what they're trying to accomplish or what they're trying to avoid and talk about that and lead them to this path of how your product or your solution is that right fit. Your services is that right fit. And so one other thing I want you to keep in mind as you're talking about can they use you is you want to speak at their language. So this morning I was talking about artificial intelligence. And one of the things I was saying, we were talking about predictive modeling. And I mentioned that when you talk to the customer, you tend to want to avoid predictive modeling. That word is too high school or college level, right? It's too sophisticated of a word. Generally, predictive modeling, or there was another one, I can't remember what it was, but it was something engine, right? And people hear the word engine, they think cars. And so what you want to do is to understand the customer's language, and you already have your language, convert what you are communicating about your services and products into their language. Bring it down to an easier to understand level. And there's 2 reasons to do this. First, most importantly, is you want them to be able to understand you. So if you're talking about predictive modeling and artificial intelligence, machine learning, you begin to talk above a lot of our heads, because really only the experts within the government who deal with AI will know what you're talking about in this example, right? The rest of us won't. The person in the HR department, the contracting officer, the small business specialist, they're not going to really know. They know some of the buzzwords, but if they're responsible for buying, bullets, beds, software development, I was trying to do some cool role there, but software development, cyber, if they're responsible for buying all this stuff, they're not going to be an expert in any one of it. Your program office will be the expert. So save that jargon for the experts. When you're having meetings with most people, they'll bring it down. And another major reason on why you want to bring it down is because sometimes if you talk to me about your business and you're talking so far over my head, and me being a market researcher or a government buyer, at some point I'm just going to start nodding my head because I don't want to be embarrassed and let you know I don't know about artificial intelligence or emerging technology words or something. And I don't know if you ever heard me say this line, but the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it took place at all. And that means we are not on the same page. And if I get to the stage where I'm nodding my head, it's because I'm too embarrassed to tell you that I'm not following. I don't know what you're talking about. Now me, I have no problem. I'll tell you all day long. What? Tell me again. I really want to know what you're talking about. But for most of us, we tend not to want to showcase our embarrassment. And when we have embarrassment like that, we aren't really understanding what you sell. And so you could talk to me, but my anxiety, my embarrassment will prevent me from really understanding what you do. And it has certainly stopped me from telling anybody else. And your goal is for me, if you're having a meeting with me, for me to be talking to others within my agency. It's like, hey, talk to this person. They do artificial intelligence. And so you don't have to dumb it down, but you do have to think about using words that are more at their language level. And the easiest way to do that is research, looking at the way they communicate internally about whatever you sell, whether it's software development or cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, training, any of these services, even when you have your own products, understanding how it aligns to what they talk about. And when you do that, people will remember what you're selling and they'll feel good about talking about it. Okay, so let me move to the second topic. By the way, if you understand what I'm talking about, the first thing is, can they use you? And you really need to align your product and service fit to their mission. Put use you in the chat. Just use you in the chat. Let me know that you follow that thread. And I'm going to go into, can they reach you? Right. And so as you're putting use you in there, our next one is, can the buyer reach you? Can they? Okay, I mentioned reaching you. To me, it basically means, are you a prime or a subcontractor on a contract vehicle that they use? And I like to say the more the better. And so there's a couple of ways of thinking about this. First off, bringing this back so we're all coming along on the same topic, the way the government buys from you is through some vehicle, some method. Somehow they have to get the money to you. Somehow they have to award you a contract. It could be a credit card purchase, but for the most of us, we're talking about it's going to be on a contract vehicle of some sort, right? They definitely do awards, but the government's trying to get better and better with their acquisition. An example is GSA Mass or Stars 3 or Oasis or any of these other 100,000 plus contract vehicles that are out there. Can they reach you? And so the first thing you might want to do, and you can look at this from two different angles, right? Which contract vehicles do you have that you want to find the buyers, or which buyers are you trying to get to, and what vehicles do they use? So let me start with the latter first. I like that. Let me start with the latter first. So the first thing I would do is, if I'm looking at an agency, the Navy, or I'm looking at Department of Education, I want to look in and do my research to find out what contract vehicles are they using. The first thing is, I want to find out if they're using any that I have. And the second thing is, I'll put together a list of their top 10 contract vehicles, let's say, in my space. If I'm doing IT as an example, I would find the top 10 contract vehicles, and I would go and get on every single team. Almost every single contract vehicle has somebody who will probably let you on if it makes sense to them to let you on. And if you can bring value, that generally can make sense. It's not like they're giving anything away by inviting you in to participate. It doesn't even mean they're putting you on a task order or giving you a subcontract. I just mean getting on the contract vehicle as what I call an unnamed teaming partner. And so Stars 3, you might just get on an email list with a Stars 3 contract holder, and they'll just let you know when ops are coming out. If you like one, you go back to them and talk to them and say, hey, can we get on it? Anyways, coming back to researching that agency, one of the ways is just using FPDS and some other tools like that to find out where are they awarding it. Also, I like just reaching out to the government themselves and having them tell me, because it's part of my relationship building. Hey, I tried to look at FPDS. I saw a couple, but can you tell me what are the top 5, 10 contract vehicles you use? I'm going to ask that of the contracting officer. I'm going to ask it of a contract specialist, of a small business professional, right? I might even ask it of a PCR, by the way, if you haven't tracked on who they are, the procurement center representatives. But I'm going to ask that question. What are the top contract vehicles you use? And now, knowing that, if I'm trying to go after a particular agency like Department of Ed or Navy, I now have a list. Okay, it's Seaport at the Navy. Am I on it as a prime? No. Okay, then let me get on it by trying to find somebody who is a prime contract holder on that vehicle and ask them if they'll make room for me to be part of their overall team, right? And I'm not trying to go into the details of how that happens, but really it basically comes down to just asking. And so that was targeting an agency and seeing what vehicles they have. The flip side is, if you have a contract vehicle or a couple, and maybe what you want to do is go, well, who's buying off of that contract vehicle? There's no point in having a contract vehicle, let's say like 8A Stars 3, and then looking over at somebody like the Air Force. And not that I know the Air Force on this at the moment, but looking at the Air Force and go, they're not really using that contract vehicle at all. But if I look at DHS, and you can look at yesterday's training, I laid this out, I think, about different contract vehicles and how you can see it. But DHS is by far the leader using Stars 3 contract vehicle. DHS might be a good agency for you to be looking at and pursuing opportunities within if you have Stars 3 contract vehicle, because now you don't have to convince them to use it. They're already committed to using it. And so that's a flip side of looking at it. Look at your contract vehicle and begin to see who's using it. If you've got GSA Mass or certain 6 on there, if you've got Oasis or any of these other contract vehicles, begin to find out who uses it, and then maybe target your efforts toward them. If you are so new that you're not really doing a lot of revenue, maybe not even priming, and you certainly don't have any contract vehicles, I would encourage you to pick a particular agency that you will go in and begin to learn, and then find the contract vehicles that are aligned to it, and then find contract holders and begin to build relationships with them. Not only will it help you get on the vehicle, but it also help you get farther into the government that way. So when I look at the 7-step process, right, understanding whether they can reach you, whether you're on these vehicles, part of it is research. I just showed you. So that's the first step in the process. The second part is targeting, right? You want to target in federal agencies, you want to target the contracting officers who are already awarding task orders on your contract vehicle. Target them for initial intro calls. Hey, I just want to introduce ourselves, talk to you about you, whatever, right? When you start targeting those people, you know that you're going to put your efforts towards contracting officers who are already committed to buying off of your contract vehicle. You can also target and build relationships with small and large primes, right? These other people out there who might want to be working with you or have the contract vehicles. And so your targeting effort is about finding not just the buyer and, like I said already, contract holders, but also you can find people who perhaps, like I just said, who might be going after particular agencies, and you can make them aware that you have this contract vehicle. I was talking with somebody recently, it might have been this morning, right? Who just told me that they're one of a few people on a particular contract vehicle. Well, that means to me, you want to market that contract vehicle as broadly as you can, so other people know that they can reach your customer through your contract vehicle. Of course, they're going to have to subcontract under you, but they might be bringing you opportunities. So anyways, the second thing that buyers are looking for is, can they reach you? Do you have the contract vehicle that they can award a contract to you if they chose to do that? And so if you follow that, put reach you in the chat. So we put use you, can they use you, right? Now we're putting reach you. Can they reach you? And I want to cover that as you're doing that. I'm going to cover down on the third topic of, can they trust you? This is about past performance, right? So the first one is there a match between what you sell and what they need? Second one is, can they award a contract vehicle to you? Do you have the contract vehicle to do that? I mean, a contract to you. And then the third one is, do you have the past performance that matches their requirements? In this particular case, there's different ways that the government looks at it. And I'm just going to boil it down a little bit on what we mean by past performance. Can I trust you? Don't read too much in the word trust, right? But can I trust that if I gave you this contract award, you would be able to do a good job? You would get it done. Past performance is the way we communicate to the government that, yes, you can trust me. Past performance is how the government looks and says, yes, I can trust you because DHS trusted you, because CPARS says that you did a great job, because your customer is giving you kudos, right? That past performance, and it doesn't have to be just prime federal. It could be subcontract, it could be commercial. If you can get that past performance communicated and you can get them somebody they can talk to, the government's open to all that. But this idea of I need to be able to see that you've done it before. The government is risk averse. They don't want to give a contract to a brand new company, and in particular, somebody who's never done business. So if I start a new company today, I could probably get a contract with the federal government as a prime contractor in my first year without too much problem, because I can point to 20 years of being a federal contractor in my other companies. And I could look over here and say, hey, this company is brand new. We haven't got any past performances, but I got a lot back there. That's me and people like me who've been in here a while, right? But if you're a brand new company, they look at you and they go, well, can I trust you? If I give you this contract, this is mission vital. This is supporting our mission, the Army's mission, DHS's mission. Will you be able to get it done? And so anyways, when we look at that trust, a couple of things you want to keep in mind that the way they measure it. The first thing is, do you have any past performance? All right. So, okay. So you scratch the surface. The second thing is, as they look at a contract, say it's a 5-year, $5 million contract. It's going to be $1 million a year. One of the trust factors, if you will, is size, right? I trust that you can do, let's say, artificial intelligence, but can you do artificial intelligence at this level? And so we're looking at two things. One is the dollar value. Can you afford to pay your people? Do you have the people to do the work? That kind of stuff around the finances. And then the second part of that is scope, right? So when we say size, it can be both dollars, $5 million contract. Have you done that before? And then scope. We have 100,000 users, for example. Have you done work with 100,000 users? And you don't always have to have exactly that number, but the closer you are to 100,000 users, as an example, the more they can trust you. But if you're trying to do, let's say, a SharePoint migration, and you've only migrated 50 users and 100 users, but their project is for 10,000 users, then they're going to really have a concern about whether you can do the work. It's a legitimate concern. Your job is to figure out how you can get them to see you as still valid. Maybe you pick up a teaming partner who has done that, right? And so these are trust factors that are in there that you want to pay attention to. As you do the trust, one thing I really wanted to help you with is, leave you with this thought on trust is, just because you put past performance in and you say, hey, there it is, it's a match, don't expect your buyer to see that. When I talk about can they trust you, it's not about whether you think they can trust you. It's about whether they can trust you and whether they see it. And so there's 3 ways you can get them to see it: business development, capture, and proposal. And so in business development, you can be having meetings with program office in particular, or when you're doing intro calls with the KO and the small business specialist. And you can do this a little bit through capture as well, but begin to talk to them about your experience and how it can help their agency. Get them used to seeing you, get them used to hearing about your experience. When you get into capture, this is when you really are able to align your past performances to their experience. And this is vital, that if you can talk to the program office and others during capture, you're basically talking to the people who are going to make the decision of go, no go with your proposal, right? They're the ones who are going to sit there and say, is this past performance relevant? Well, if they've heard you talking about it before, then maybe they're a lot more warmed up to it. And then finally, in the proposal, the way you help them understand trust is, don't just put it in and say, there it is. Tell them this is how these match up. We call it crosswalking. Crosswalk your past performance to their requirements. When they say they want a similar sized project, mention it. When they say we want a project done in a similar type environment, you might put Navy and they got Army. They go, you're Navy. But sit there and say, no. This was for special operations within the Navy, and you're special operations within the Army. And so we have this relationship. Help them walk through. Don't make them figure out what is already in your head. When you do that, you'll be able to help them see that they can trust you. And so if you're followed with what I just said there, do me a favor and put trust you into the chat. So you should have put into the chat, use you, reach you, and now trust you. And these are answering those questions that the government is looking at when, these top things federal buyers are looking at from small businesses. So just as a recap, right, we talked about the top 3 things that federal buyers will look for when they're looking at a small business, or really any business, is, can they use you? Can they reach you? And can they trust you? And I want to give you a tip for when you walk away. And I'm trying to find a tip that is like 5-minute, 15-minute task. But here's what I want you to do. Pull out your capability statement before you walk away, after you say thanks in the chat, but before you walk away, pull out your capability statement and look at it and ask yourself, does my capability statement answer these 3 questions for the government? Can they use me? Can they trust me? Can they reach me? Right? When you do that, does it quickly, when you look at the capability statement, does it quickly answer those 3 questions? If it doesn't, take the time to revise it. But that's my task for you today, is go look at your capability statement on that. Hey, if you'd like to work with me and my team, we have a BD Accelerator Workshop. We'd love to have you join if your company's at the right stage. If you're interested in learning more, do me a favor, just shoot me a DM in the LinkedIn, so a message in LinkedIn. And then remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.